There we go. All right. Hey, everyone. It's Jenna with Damnation Vault, and I'm here with Sally Gates of Titan to Tachyons. Am I saying that correctly?
Tachyons, yeah.
Tachyons. Okay. Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Yeah, just been working on, getting the tour dates together and some promo for the album and all that. And
Yeah, which you are releasing, is it pronounced Vonals?
Vonals, yeah.
Vonals on September 16th. Like well, first of all, how do you feel the title of it like represents the album as a whole?
It's based on some of the artwork that inspired the album. And it's sort of a fairly abstract concept as well. Like it essentially means like lines or to draw. So like I relate, like I'm really visually influenced, so there's like a lot of things with like painting and drawing that I relate to music, and there's a lot of abstraction and surrealism happening both in the visuals and the music, so I feel like it encapsulates all that.
Okay. Yeah, and you do all of the album artwork for this one, and you also did it for Cactides. How do you feel the album artwork represents the album musically, especially, or how do you feel it translates the music, I guess, in the artistic form?
It's essentially the pictures I'm seeing in my head, like I say, it's formed in a similar way. With the art, like I start off with like a general kind of design, like sort of a sketched idea, and then as I paint, it kind of just comes together intuitively, so it's similar to the way I write music. Like I have some of the form is already composed and we have the structure in place, but then there's a lot of fluidity to it. Like there's improv, there's like parts where maybe we'll play them randomly, like it's like a set melody, but you can play it wherever you want on the neck, like whatever key or notes, so there's similarities between the two.
Okay. And like when you were creating the artwork and everything, like were you listening to the album as you were doing it, or was it just completely like just based off of inspiration without listening to the music of the album?
Yeah, like I wouldn't listen to my own music to do this. Like it's more, I guess like I'm listening to, and also like watching movies, like listening to the same things that probably inspired the music. So I'm coming from the same place. And it was sort of interesting, like while I was painting the first album cover for Cactides, I had the new season of Twin Peaks going, because I'm a massive Lynch fan, and there was a piece by Penderecki on there, and that actually inspired some of the music on the second album, and so it's all related for me.
Okay. Yeah, and like how when you're painting and you're in the zone of it, like were there any parts of it, the album artwork for either Vonals or Cactides that like really stuck out to you the most as you were creating it before you finished it?
How do you mean, like elements in the painting? Or
Yeah, like how when you get in a zone when you're painting and everything, and like was there a certain point like when you were painting that it just really was vivid and stuck out to you the most, like brings like another special meaning to it to you?
I guess the process as a whole is I guess meaningful in its own way, and it's like I really enjoy kind of like uncovering what's there. Like I feel like both with music and art, like I feel like the paintings are in existence and I just have to figure out what it is. And that's kind of where you let your intuition guide you. Is like I generally start off with like a visual image, and then I just have to kind of like flesh that out onto paper. um but I mean, there's definitely like times where it's not working, and I'll start again, like with actually right behind here, like this, the back cover for Vonals. I actually spent about 3 months on that because what I was picturing just wasn't working, and I was trying different things and I kept redoing it. So like the lower half of the painting I actually like redid maybe like 3 or 4 times, and before just ending up how it is. So it's always interesting, like there's no like significant or specific points in each where I'd say it was like really coming together, or like that's it kind of moment. It was just like a
Yeah.
process, So
Yeah. Yeah. It's really beautiful. Like
thank you.
all of your art that I've seen on your website and everything is so beautiful. Like, what are some of your main inspirations for some of the paintings that you have done that really have stuck with you the most?
So you cut out for a second. Did you say the painting inspirations?
Yeah, yeah. Like what? Because all of your art that's on your website it's beautiful. Like what
Thank
were
you.
some of the biggest inspirations for some of those paintings on there?
I guess my earliest painting inspiration was Dali. Like I remember like taking high school art, and we had to pick different artist models, and I had him, and there was another surrealist. It was an Australian painter. I forget his name. And essentially, you had to like imitate their style but produce your own work. And I feel like I just kind of kept doing that, and then I would discover other artists along the way. And I got really into sort of like geometric work. Like starting with like Escher, and then um, like Victor Vassarelli, who's where the word bonals came from, is he has a painting series by the same name. Um, and then also like Yayoi Kusama, like I love her use of color and like the repetitiveness, but it's also geometric in its own way. And even through Instagram, like I've found amazing artists like Jeff Sheridan, like he does a lot of kind of like space art where it's like black and white and very striking and minimalistic. And so he was a big inspiration for the Cactides art for sure.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool that you mentioned Salvador Dali because he's one of my most favorite artists too. Like, how do you feel like him as an artist influenced you to for your music?
Actually, he sort of takes a big part in that, because like his whole thing with like melting and disintegration, I feel is like very prominent in the way I play. Like, I mean, a lot of friends that I play with and like my band members, they say I have like squishy timing. So that's, which I sort of relate to that melting feeling. Like I want to, like going back to like being visually inspired, like I want to make it sound like things like pulling apart or getting warped or playing backwards. And then like there's a section in Blue Thought Particles, which is the last track on Vonals, where I basically like directed everyone to like, we're playing this sort of melodic solo section and then have it like pull apart and disintegrate and then just become chaotic and angular, and so it's again like very visually based for me. But
I can definitely hear that. Like when I was listening to it, it definitely it's an experience to listen to. It's very like in a way it's a in my perspective it is like very psychedelic without even consuming psychedelics.
that's kind of what I'm going for. So,
Yeah, it's so cool.
thank you so much.
um uh, yeah, what is the meaning behind your name of Titan to Tachyons? I feel like I said that wrong again.
um, that's something that I never really explained to anybody, but it's definitely to do with the tachyons. And I'm also like a huge Red Dwarf fan, which I guess more people in the UK would be familiar with, which it's very loosely, I wouldn't even say inspired by it, but there was just like a phrase from that show that just kind of like triggered this thought process and made the name come together. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's see.
um, oh,
Your big, what's that?
and also I don't know if it was part of the question, but a lot of people ask me what tachyons are, so I'm not sure if that was also what you were meaning, but they're basically like theoretical particles that travel faster than light and basically mean that they would travel backwards in time. So if,
Oh wow,
yeah, so that's just to clue it in a little. So
that's really cool. It's like very. I don't even know the word to describe. It's very deep and philosophical. um, you you are inspired by quite a range of different artists, from very extreme to jazz to blues and everything. And you even have this piano tapping technique, which is it's insane. How did you initially begin to start doing that technique? And what was it that like inspired you to do it?
Well, I'm definitely not the first person to do that. I mean, I learned it from Reggie Wooten, who's, if you know Victor Wooten, the bass player, it's his brother. He's the oldest of five, and he actually like taught all of them how to play. Um, so that was like I was going up to him to have lessons for a bit in Nashville, and so he taught me that, like a bunch of other techniques, and he was also the one that like really connected the dots for me with like music theory. Like I began playing piano as my first instrument, so it made sense in that form. And I had all this music theory that I knew, but then when I started playing guitar, I, I was like a teenager and I didn't want to learn all that. I just wanted to learn how to play metal, and so it wasn't until I went to Reggie later on that he kind of like helped me connect those dots and start translating what I knew on the piano to the guitar. And then I just sort of took a step further and I was like, oh, I remember this Bach piece that I used to play. Like, let me see if I can work it out, like using, I still had the sheet music. So I like figured out how to play it like that. And
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Really, like, it's mind blowing to somebody who has not ever seen that before.
Oh, cool.
um, uh, I also read that you teach music at schools, and like, what are some of the most important things that you would tell to other like aspiring musicians, guitarists, or whatever that you have learned over the years?
One of the things that I tell all my students is to work on ear training. That's like, I mean, developing your ear, like your sense of timing, that's one of the most important things you can do. And I found as a kid growing up, I mean, it was never something that really got mentioned to me with my own lessons. And it probably wasn't until I was like, I don't know, maybe in my 20s or something, where, teachers started being like, oh, hey, maybe you should try this like listening exercise. And then I realized that was something I definitely need to work on. So it's kind of, I guess, like projecting my own weaknesses onto people, but it's definitely, it's an incredibly valuable tool as a musician to develop that skill. And then just generally, I mean, like developing a practice routine, even if you're only doing 10 minutes a day, like if you stick to that, and if that's like a focused, concentrated time, you're going to get a lot further, and a lot of times, like it's kind of like this trick to make yourself practice. Like if you just say, okay, I really don't want to practice today, but I'm just going to do 10 minutes. I can get through 10 minutes. And then a lot of the time you'll just end up playing longer. Like you'll get into it and you'll keep going. And I think also, just making sure you're enjoying it, like having fun is absolutely important.
Yeah, definitely. And you were also in Orb Weaver, that Orb Weaver. Like, how do you feel that Titans to Tachyons really embraces your own personal sound rather than when you were playing with Orb Weaver?
I mean, Titans is pretty much all me, you know what I mean? We do, we work on the material as a group, but generally, like, I'll come with a fully formed song and then we'll all play it together, add everybody else's parts and develop it. Whereas Orb Weaver was mostly like Randy Pyro, the other guitar player. It was sort of the other way around with that. Like he would bring everything to the band and then we would do it in that same fashion. And so mostly like I would just be writing my own solos or maybe contributing riffs here and there. So um, Titans was really just me breaking away and saying like, hey, I need to do my own thing. I need to have something, like I need to find my own voice, and I need to get this out there. I need to do this for myself. So
Okay.
yeah, which I feel like I've achieved. So.
um, and then, going back to Vonals, like, are there any specific songs that really resonate with you the most on the album, and why so?
Um, that's a yeah, I haven't thought about that so much yet, I guess. um, I guess I mean like Vacuum Symmetry was an interesting song because I was trying to go in a different direction. Like we kind of start out with like this drum and bass sort of breakbeat thing, and uh, I guess like I was trying to develop it like doing more with less. You know what I mean? Like it's really minimal. In fact, like it only has maybe like 3 or 4 ideas, and I was really trying to like expand upon them and see how we could sort of like turn them inside and out. And but at the same time, it like I struggled to finish that one. Like that probably took the longest, maybe because it was so different for me. Um, and it was also like there's I'm not sure if anybody would catch this, but there's like a tiniest nod to David Bowie in there, just like a little motif that like reminds me of one of his vocal lines, you know. And so there's like a little personal touch there.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
Are there any other songs on the album that, like, when you were creating the songs and composing them as well, when was there a moment where you were really hit with inspiration from something and you were just like, oh my gosh, this is it, I have to get this out of me? And what song was that, or what part was that of a song?
Yeah. I mean, it's great whenever inspiration hits so quickly, you know. um, there's one in particular, like on Critical Paranoia, which is the third track. There's a riff. It's maybe like the third section into the song, and it's like this sort of stretchy pattern, like I'm playing across a few different frets, and that just kind of like came out of nowhere. And so I just had like this, it was almost like a guitar exercise, you know what I mean? So I had this pattern going, and it was kind of reminding me of like the band Battles or something, which, you know, I told that to my bandmates and they were just like, what? Like, not at all. You know. But yeah, so that one, that just kind of came together, and it made a lot of other things in that song click, and I was able to develop like several other parts that were really different and contrasting from it, like, which listening through it you probably wouldn't pick up on that. But also like it was kind of interesting. Like I was watching the Coltrane documentary actually, and like listening to, I think I just had it on playing maybe while I was painting or something, and so I was kind of like half listening in the background, and then it just occurred to me, I'm like, wait, I need to change the feel of this. Like I should add some kind of swing, like what he's doing, you know, and like kind of like how Giant Steps flows, you know, and so that just completely changed the whole riff. Like I had this kind of like angular boxy thing, and then we took certain sections and made them like change the feel of it, and it just kind of made it all come together, you know, just sort of sculpted it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned like the visual aspect of the music. Is there any song in particular that you like as you were creating it or recording it where like an image came over your mind, or it's like, this is what's being translated right now?
Yeah, like definitely. I mean, that's a big way of how I form the overall song structure, you know. But in particular, Wax Hypnotic, that one, I just kind of had an image of like, I guess like a, you know, post-apocalyptic world that's gone through like nuclear fallout or whatever. But like I was just imagining like this dilapidated old house in the middle of the desert with a record player that was just kind of melting, you know, and like just then that's basically it. Just that one image kind of pulled that song together, you know.
Okay, that's really cool. That's a cool story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and with Cactides, were there also any songs on there that you had a similar experience with, where
Yeah,
you
definitely.
really saw it?
Yeah, like Everybody's Dead Dave is based around I guess like a sort of science fiction storyline, um where I mean it's a pretty sort of typical story. It's like if you had say like a space colony, and you just have the one guy that wakes up and nobody else is around, and he's like, what is going on here? And he's like kind of wandering around, and then starts getting attacked, and then maybe like the, you know, the shield cracks, and he just kind of floats out onto space, and he's like drifting off and probably like hallucinating, going to his death or whatever, you know. So that was what that whole piece was based around, was like sort of 4 parts of that story and like the different sort of like emotions and textures that were happening. So
Okay. Are there any correlations between cactides and vonals, like with the I guess the oral messages you want to portray, if that makes sense?
yeah, I guess. um, I mean, I guess it's generally, you know, it's coming from the same place and similar sort of inspiration. I mean, Cacti's was more sort of based on like science fiction narratives, you know, like I just described. And with Vonals, I was kind of reading more about like, I guess more like inner journeys, like how, like the nature of your consciousness and reality and perception. And so it's kind of like, it's drawing inwards instead of looking out to space, like the first one. Um, and I think, you know, there's similarities musically, like there's, you know, like harmonically similar, or some motifs that might sort of vaguely relate, you know, like to the first album, but they're developed, or, you know, there's definitely like some conceptual crossover for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have a very philosophical state of mind, or mindset. From what you're telling me, what would be like some of the most philosophical parts of your music that like you've created throughout your entire life, that or and also here's another question that's coming to me, like what have you also learned throughout like your entire musical career that really has impacted the way that you perform and play?
That's a big question. um,
It just came to me, so
no, I mean it's a great question. I mean there's so much I've learned from playing music. I mean, even just like you know, like it's a team experience, you know, playing music with other people, so you learn all kinds of communication skills, both socially and musically. And you really learn a lot about yourself too. I mean, you really have to have like a level of confidence to put yourself out there and take whatever kind of feedback you get, you know, whether it's positive or negative. And there's like I find like improvising too, there's a lot of philosophical approaches to that, like a lot of parallels with other social situations. You know, it's like listening and responding to other people, and even just the nature of how the music can travel with it. Like there's actually a great book on that. It's called The Jazz of Physics. I think Stefan Alexander is the author. He was a jazz saxophone player from Queens, but like he talks a lot about how like relating like quantum physics principles to improvising, like saying how, for instance, like if a particle is traveling somewhere, if it knows where it's going, then there's only like so many routes you can take to get there. But if the destination is completely open, it can go anywhere. And that absolutely relates to improvising. You know, it's if you're completely free and open, it can go anywhere, and it can be chaotic and messy, or it can be like ambient, emotional, whatever, you know. And there's also actually, like going deeper into that, there was a TED talk by Seth Anil, I think his name was. He's a neuroscientist, and he was talking about the way we perceive things, and saying how we essentially we have limits on our perception. Like there's only so many frequencies of color we can see, or like the audio, you know, spectrum, or whatever we have. For instance, like, you know how like some animals, like, you know, maybe they only see in black and white, or they have higher hearing ranges than we do. And he's saying like basically like if you take all these perception filters off, what we would see would essentially look like we were hallucinating. So it's really like a biological survival to have this, our perception contained, so we can actually function and not just, you know, sit there looking at all the pretty lights all day. so I started thinking about that, and again, relating to improvising, it's sort of the same way. Like if you put limitations on it, like I was making a record with Trevor Dunn and Greg Fox last year, and we did a little bit of rehearsing beforehand, and we were kind of playing around with concepts like having like a time limit, or like you can only play certain notes, or you can only play certain forms. And I sort of found that that was a lot more productive to have these limits than to have it just be completely open, because things again would just get like meandering or chaotic, but not necessarily in a good way, or because I do love chaotic music. So I was just thinking, yeah, it's like a similar thing. Like you need, like if you have these musical limitations for your compositional survival, if you will, you know. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
That's a really wow, that answer is very deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
This was a really cool interview. I've never had one like this before. um, and also with all of your diverse taste in music that you have, and you do like a lot of metal, of course. Are you? Do you think you would ever do something like completely different and out of left field that people wouldn't ever expect you to do? And or have you already? Do you have stuff like that like piled back?
yes to both questions. I mean, yeah, I love a challenge. I love doing anything new. I mean, I've played, with pop bands before. Like I even nearly had a gig with a hip hop artist, which was actually amazing to play. Like I was able to do a rehearsal, but the gig fell through. But just playing with somebody who sung like that, like he was an amazing singer. It was like a lot of like soul in his voice and everything, and that was a really cool experience. And I mean, I've done performance art pieces with Nama Sabar, who's an amazing artist. What else? Like a gong orchestra thing. But yeah, it's like I mean, yeah, I'm totally open to anything that comes my way, and I love playing all styles of music. Yeah, so yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Looking through my notes. I think we've hit all of the everything that I have written down.
Awesome.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to get out to the world, to the universe about Vonals coming out
Yeah.
on
So
September 16th?
yeah. So yeah, it's coming out next week, and we're doing a little short East Coast run, just down to South Carolina and back. So we're hitting Greensboro, Atlanta. Oh yeah, so Columbia, South Carolina, Richmond, and then we're doing the album release show here in Brooklyn at St. Vitus. That's October 11th. So yeah, like come out and see us play. I think it's the best way to experience the band is live. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and I'm gonna put this out there because I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. We have a good metal scene out here. Definitely got to put Fargo on a list sometime.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That's like one of the few states I haven't been. So cool.
Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much for doing this interview. It's been so enlightening and very like so different from any other one. So thank you so much for taking the time to do it and being so open and answering all of my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for taking the time to do this and all the kind words. Like I'm really glad you enjoyed the record, and it was really fun talking about
Yeah.
it. So, cool.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day or evening, I guess it is now.
Yeah, cool. You too, and have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right, see ya.
Bye.